There's a saying from Nikola Tesla: if you want the keys to the universe, think in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency. I'm gonna get straight to the point. I'm gonna teach you and tell you how to manifest and make dua and how those things relate. And I'm gonna give you the methods to that. The way I started getting into manifestation was through observing the friendships that I've had my entire life, okay? When I tell you, every single, and this has happened to me like 6 times, every single friendship that I have has ended, like it's always lasted 2 years, okay? I've had deja vu moments where they'll say the same thing that the last person said in the friendship around the same time that like our friendship lasted, right? I was meeting the same personalities, okay? The same people in different bodies. You guys know that saying where like God will send you the same people until you learn your lesson. This was my lesson, okay? I needed to learn what manifestation was, the mental aspect of it, because I was manifesting these people into my life. That was the scariest thing ever. And I was like, no, like I'm literally doing something wrong. I started researching about this stuff, how our thoughts create our reality, how the way that you think and like the things that you say and speak into existence, facts, your reality creates your reality, because everything needs to be thought about first, brought into fruition. So when I tell you, I have literally read every single book, I've watched every single video. I've done literally so much research on manifestation. Well, I came to a point where I was like, okay, now I need to actually try this and see if it works for myself. So the first thing that I did was the 369 method. I finally decided to try it. I remember back then, okay, this was in like 2020 when like everyone was making videos about this on TikTok. Okay, this one girl said to do the 369 method. This was very random. This is what just came up to my mind. I decided I'm gonna see an orange butterfly. So what I did was 3 times write down what it is, 6 times the intention, and then 9 times write exactly what you would have. So as if you already have that thing. So this is what I would have written, right? 3 times an orange butterfly, 6 times I'm going to see an orange butterfly, and then 9 times I'm so grateful now that I've seen an orange butterfly. After I wrote this down on a piece of paper, I literally just folded it, like put it away. And then I visualized for like 5 seconds, literally 5 seconds, an orange butterfly, like out in the nature, okay? When I tell you, the next day, none of this is planned, okay? The next day, we go on like a road trip. I'm gonna put up a picture here from 2020. I see an orange butterfly, like art on the wall. Now I saw this and I was like, unimpressed. I was like, okay, I'm getting signs. And I was so confident. I was like, yeah, like this is gonna happen. I'm gonna see this. Which is why it's really important for you to have tawakkur, or for you to genuinely believe and know that it's going to happen. That's the key. Then the next day after that, we went on a picnic, right? Like we go here all the time, right? There's no butterflies whatsoever. Midway during like our stay there, someone points out to me, there's an orange butterfly. I sat there for like a minute and I was like, oh my God, like this just happened. I just manifested this. And you'd think like this is something so simple. It could have been a coincidence. But the way I was so sure and I just knew it was going to happen, I didn't doubt it for like a second. That was the first thing I ever manifested. Since then, I have literally manifested money. I have manifested grades changing after my like cards came out, right? The semester ended. I have manifested everything. But I'm going to say this at its core. You need to have tawakkur. It's all about tawakkur. You need to trust. You need to believe that it's going to happen. Right? A Muslim is one that submits their will to Allah. You have no option but to submit to Allah, but to surrender to Allah. If you trust Allah, everything works out. I didn't plan that. I didn't plan going out the next day or the day after that. I even probably forgot about it, and then it happened for me. The second method that I'm going to warn you about, this is so dangerous. They're never going to teach you in school. You need to really listen to me when I say this, okay? Because no one's ever going to tell you this. I had to do so much research and I had to learn it the hard way. The stats method, okay? Let me put this pencil down. This is something that Neville Goddard talks a lot about, if any of y'all know who that is. It's basically where you go to sleep on the thought of what you do want to manifest, okay? When I tell you, especially when it comes to those friendships, do you know why those friendships kept manifesting for me? The same personalities, the same people kept showing up in different bodies. I would go home from school every day, and then I would think about that right before I sleep. Oh, they said this. Oh, they did this. That was upsetting. That was suspicious, right? I would fall asleep to the thought of things that I didn't want or did occur in my day, which I understand it's like innate for all of us to just like observe like what happened throughout our day at the end of the day when we're about to fall asleep. But you need to avoid that at all costs because this could literally ruin your life. And when I decided to look into like the scientific, like, you know, what proof do we have that this actually works? This has to do with our theta waves, which is the stages of us falling asleep or eventually falling to sleep. The most important stage is the theta stage, okay? Which is right when you're about to fall asleep versus like being awake, okay? So it's like the transition period between that. Because this shifts your conscious, right? It's when your brain truly loosens up, which is why during meditation, they always say like breathe in, breathe out, right? You want to reset your body to 0. You don't want any thoughts, you know? And I'm going to give you this like visual example for people who are visual, right? If you have chaos throughout the day, it looks like this. Let's say you have a straight idea of what it is that you want, and you're trying to align those two. Does this sit on top? Does it sit flat? Do these collide? No. You want to start off on a clean slate, okay? And then have a clear understanding of what it is that you want. This is your conscious, this is what you want. You have clear understandings and a clear slate to input these subconscious messages into, okay? They collide, they sit together, they match. You want to clear your conscious. You could do this by breathing in and out. You could do this by simply focusing on nothing, right? Focusing on nothingness or your breath. So when you do clear your mind and you're laying in bed, right, about to fall asleep, you want to think about what you do want as if you already have it. Because the brain does not know the difference between our actual reality and our imagination. If you convince yourself enough that this thing is true, you're going to manifest it. So you want to sleep to the idea of already having this thing. Now, I recently made a video about manifesting a dua by letting go and how that actually worked for me when I started manifesting along with the dua. And I didn't mention that, but that dua was about a trip that I manifested to Turkey. What I didn't mention was that I also did the stats method, which I'm going to get into. But when I tell you, the odds were against me, okay? My dad got banned from Turkey. My passport expired. Our relatives died. And then an earthquake hit. So there was no way that like I would have been able to go the first or the second year. But when I tell you, I didn't care. I still persisted. I still made my dua. I literally didn't care. And I knew it. Like, I'm going to be there one day. Okay? But there was so much resistance where I wanted it so bad. And you need to want it, but not want it so severely to the point where like, you know, you can't bear the alternative or the option of not having that thing. Because one thing that I've noticed is God is truly testing us to see, are we patient? Do we have sabr? Are we that attached to something in the dunya? Are we that attached to an outcome that we can't bear the alternative of God not having or not giving us that? Whereas now, it's like, okay, I get to relax and enjoy and know that this opportunity was given to me. Like the first half of wanting to go was always me trying to arrange places, right? Trying to figure out like flight prices and stuff like that. Whereas I just let the opportunity slide and come to me when I didn't expect it most. Now, this is where I used the stats method, okay? And this is almost unintentional too, right? Because I was not approaching this from a mindset of like, I so desperately need to have this. I need to manifest this. Like, this needs to happen immediately. I was actually coming from a place of like, this is going to happen eventually, right? Like, I'm going to get to go one day anyways. If it's not now, then it's later, right? But I didn't let that stop me. And I didn't put that on a pedestal. I enjoyed the thought of like being able to go one day, which I think is what manifested. Now, like I said, stats, method is where like you would go to sleep on the thought of this thing. When I tell you, I would like play audios, I'm gonna put it here. I would play audios of like airplane ambience and like, you know, that like audio when like the airport or like the people that work on the plane like call and they're like, welcome to this airport. I would listen to like that audio, right? I would fall asleep to the sound of like airplane ambience. I genuinely think that like manifested, like that's probably what manifested it for me. I had a whole Pinterest board. I would visualize myself like being there sometimes, or like the stores, or like drinking tea or like whatever, right? Like just imagining what it would be like if I was already experiencing that thing. So to me, that felt like planning for the trip. That's when I unintentionally manifested. So sometimes something unintentional, because there's so much like freedom and flow there, where like there's no resistance, there's no like I need this immediately kind of like reaction. It literally comes to you naturally. Now I had another like miracle manifestation where I technically changed my grades even though report cards already came out and like the semester ended. Now I'm gonna say this and you need to really ingrain this into your head. Tawakkul is a dua in itself. It's an answered dua in itself. I've done like, even with vision boards, right? I'll have this picture of something that I want, and later in life, I'll unintentionally, I never made dua for this thing, never asked for it. I just thought about it. I trusted God. I was like, okay, well, perhaps this is a sign to God, right? If I'm taking the action to say I want this thing, to me that's an action, right? Saying you want this thing, making your intention clear. If you have enough tawakkul, God will even manifest that for you. You don't even have to open your mouth. You don't even have to make dua. And I've had things like that happen where I put a picture of something and then I have this like deja vu moment where I'm like, oh my God, like I remember printing this exact picture out and now I have it. Now there was like this 1 month where I didn't go to school, right? I had a lot of absences, and this one class, I thought I was gonna fail it, okay? I had a final exam for that class and like the semester was ending when I came back. So that very night before I did the test, I was like making dua, right? I was like super anxious and like, you know, like I really just don't want to feel behind. Like I really just need to pass this grade. Like that's it. Like all my other classes are good. It's just this one class. So I'm making dua there, right? And then I'm like, wait, why am I this worked up and worked over grades? Okay, like it's really not the end of the world if anything else happens, right? I made the decision then and there that I'm going to pass. I don't care what the teacher marks, okay? I don't care what the teacher writes. I'm going to pass. I'm not taking this course again. Matter of fact, the next day I did the test, okay? When I tell you, I even did something like wrong. I remember doing like a whole page wrong because I like misunderstood the instructions. Apparently we were like allowed to like leave one page out or something like that, okay? Where like I misunderstood it and it put me at an even higher risk of like not getting the marks that I wanted. The page for like the grades like a few days later. And when I tell you, it was down by like 2 marks, I think, okay? Where like I couldn't pass. I was like, no, I passed. For most people, you would sit there and be like upset that like your dua didn't get accepted, or like you sincerely, genuinely, really wanted to pass and like God didn't accept this for you, whatever, right? Most people would be mad at God or themselves, right? Like, oh, I should have done this or that, or like, God, like, why wouldn't you accept my dua? I was mad at the lady because why are you trying to get in between me and God? Like, you better mark that correct, okay? Literally for the next like 2 days after that, even though I felt like disappointed or whatever, or I was like, I can't believe this. Like, no, there's something wrong. You work accordingly to what I want, not the other way around, okay? I made dua, I don't care, I passed. When I tell you, this could have been a mistake on my behalf, okay? When I went back to check, okay, this was like a random 3 a.m. like impulsive decision to just get up on that page and just check, like, no, I want to see, is this really true? I then realized like the lady, the teacher, didn't add my like unit 1 marks to the second unit thing. So my mark was higher than I even expected right? So she would have had to added that in or changed it or whatever, okay? And I was like, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. So technically, even though it was like a misunderstanding, my grade still changed. That was when I was like, oh my God, like Allah was testing to see, God was testing to see how I would react. How I would truly and sincerely trust and believe wholeheartedly, like, I don't care what this number says. My grade looks like this. I passed. I don't care. You could do any method, okay? It doesn't have to be stats or the 369, okay? You could do a vision board. You could do visualization. You could do affirmation. And you could do those or like any other method out there. It doesn't matter. I think those are all a prompt to really train your mind and really